Welcome to World War II Indiana Landmarks, Episode 8, The Museum of the Soldier in Portland. I'm your host, Ron May, author of the book, World War II Indiana Landmarks. Portland is located 50 miles south of Fort Wayne and 65 miles due east of Kokomo. It is the county seat of Jay County, and it is also home to the Museum of the Soldier. The Museum of the Soldier had its historical roots as a bottling company for Coca-Cola. The Coca-Cola Company went to great lengths to supply their soft drink to members of the armed forces serving overseas during World War II. When the United States entered World War II in 1941, Robert Woodruff, president of the Coca-Cola Company, made a pledge, and I quote, "to see that every man in uniform gets a bottle of Coca-Cola for 5 cents wherever he is, and whatever it costs the company." The company went to extraordinary efforts to make good on that pledge in 1943 by shipping not only 3 million bottles of Coca-Cola, but also equipment and supplies to establish 10 bottling operations in North Africa. The feat was later expanded to establish 54 other bottling plants throughout the theaters of operation, which ultimately produced 5 billion bottles of Coca-Cola for U.S. Armed Forces personnel serving abroad. Portland, Indiana was helping to supply the popular beverage back home in its brick-building bottling plant located on the corner of East Arch and North Hayes Streets. The plant, which had been in operation since 1919, kept residents supplied with Coca-Cola throughout the tumultuous war years. Portland's plant operation eventually relocated to a different location in the town, leaving behind a vacant building and an opportunity for 3 local men to open a museum of war memorabilia. The building that once held the popular beverage has become the Museum of the Soldier, and now holds some of the memorabilia and stories of those who drank the product in war theaters. The displays feature many former service members from Jay County and are portals to learning more of each person's service and often sacrifice. Herbert K. Bubb, a native son of Portland, is one of those stories. The Sons in Service flag from the Bubb family hangs from one of the display partitions. It has 4 blue stars in the field of white, noting that their 4 sons were all serving in the armed forces in World War II. One of those stars, representing Herbert, was destined for gold thread, representing a son killed in action. Bubb was born in 1921 and graduated from Portland High School in 1941, enlisting in the Navy in October 1942. After completing boot camp at Great Lakes Naval Training Center, he attended Diesel Training School in Richmond, Virginia, and then Submarine School in New London, Connecticut. Bubb was assigned to the newly built USS Cisco, SS-290 submarine, which had been commissioned for service on May 10, 1943. He was a fireman first class, responsible for firing and tending the boilers, as well as operating, adjusting, and repairing the pumps in the submarine. The Cisco left her home port on July 24, 1943, for the Panama Canal Zone. She arrived in Brisbane, Australia on September 2nd, and following some operational exercises, departed Darwin, Australia on September 20th for her first war patrol. Her orders were to patrol the South China Sea. On September 28, an oil slick on the surface of the water was discovered by Japanese planes, which had coordinated with Japanese ships to launch depth charge attacks on her. A large gush of oil on the water's surface confirmed that she had been fatally hit. Later attempts by the headquarters of Task Force 71 to establish radio contact with Cisco failed, and she was presumed lost. The Navy officially declared the ship lost at sea on February 8, 1944. Herbert Bubb, age 22, just 9 days into his first submarine patrol in enemy waters, died in service to his country, along with the rest of the crew of 76. He left behind his widow Dorothy, his parents, and his brothers, all of whom survived the war. Herbert K. Bubb's name and the words, "Buried at Sea," appear on the headstone of his parents at Green Park Cemetery in Portland, Indiana. Bubb was not the only native Hoosier on board the Cisco at the time of her sinking. The commanding officer of the submarine, Commander James W. Coe, was a native of Richmond, Indiana. The Naval Academy graduate served on 4 submarines during a 10-year stretch, scoring multiple hits on Japanese vessels. He was a veteran skipper with 6 patrols under his belt. His wife, Rachel, gave birth to their 3rd child, a daughter, Mary Lee, in April, just 6 months after he departed on Cisco for Australia. In total, 52 U.S. submarines were lost in World War II, which resulted in the deaths of just over 3,500 submariners. Other stories of service and sacrifice by Jay County and area sons during World War II abound in the museum's displays. Among those displays, you'll also find a Norden bomb sight. The sophisticated instrument was used by bombardiers to direct the bomb drops to the designated targets. Some of those bomb sites were secretly built right here in Indiana at the Harold Lucas Corporation on the east side of Indianapolis. The building later became Naval Avionics and today is the Vertex Corporation. The back room of the Museum of the Soldier features some large military items, including an impressive restoration of a 1943 white M16A2 half-track vehicle with a multiple-gun motor carriage. Named the African Queen, the vehicle served in the European theater during World War II and then saw service in Korea, French Indochina, and Africa. It was abandoned in Africa and sat there for 50 years until 2006, when it was finally recovered and painstakingly restored. Martinsville, Indiana native Harry Mason served on a similar vehicle, the M3 half-track, with the U.S. forces moving up the boot of Italy during the Italian campaign. The Museum of the Soldier also has exhibits of all the other wars fought by our country. It's definitely worth a visit. Learn more about the history of the Museum of the Soldier and the stories of those who served in my new book, World War II Indiana Landmarks, available for purchase on my website or wherever books are sold. And while on my website, check out my trilogy of Indiana World War II veteran service stories. Thanks for tuning in to this episode.